Ladies and gentlemen, we will reconvene the meeting at 8:39 p.m. Councillor D'Agostino, you have an amendment that you have put forward that you have moved. Can I please call for a seconder for the amendment?
Sorry, Madam President, I should just clarify. There is some additional wording in A, so it's changed slightly. So prior to the issue of the building permit, a detailed schedule of colours and materials shall be submitted to and approved, that should be by council, shall be submitted to and approved by council, suitably depicting and sympathetic to the natural rural tones and rural landscape of the locality. That's a subtle change to the existing wording, not a great change. And then B is prior to the submission of a building permit, a report is to be submitted by a suitably qualified consulting engineer expert that demonstrates the proposed runoff from the development will be restricted to pre-development levels to the satisfaction of the Shire on the advice from Water Corporation. And that's really capturing the issue raised by Water Corp.
Thank you, Councillor D'Agostino. Councillor D'Agostino, who do you propose pays for that said report?
I would imagine the applicant, given that they'd previously paid for their own report by their expert, the name of which escapes me. Like they've got a water expert, and I can tell you exactly who it was. As I had a look at the report, JDA Consultant Hydrologist prepared their initial report for the applicant. JDA Consultant Hydrologist. So yeah, so you're right. So expert report paid by the applicant. Yep.
Thank you. Can I please call for a seconder for the amendment before us? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this amendment?
Opposed. President, I just have a little bit of a question. A little bit of a problem with the second part of the thing as to how do you actually quantify the amount of water going off and now and what's going to go off later? Is that actual science, or is that some actual physical way of proving this?
Director?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Certainly, there's a whole sector built around sort of stormwater modelling, so I guess through some sophisticated models, they look at what the site currently exists as, what the proposed site will look like, and then through a modelling process, determine if the criteria set by the Water Corporation will be met or not.
Thank you, Director. I'm not entirely convinced, but that's just me.
Is there anybody opposed to this amendment? The amendment is carried unanimously. It now becomes part of the substantive motion. Is there anybody opposed to the substantive motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.
Madam President, could we just get a reason for the difference for the minutes, please? The officer's recommendation from Councillor D'Agostino.
Or Councillor Byers? Or
I was going to provide something very glib along the lines of to ensure stormwater concerns are addressed. But unless Councillor D'Agostino has anything else he'd like to add, no?
Item 10.1.6, proposed response to request from the State Development Assessment Unit for Shire comment, information or recommended conditions, proposed private recreation motorsport facility 732 Punrack Road, Keysbrook and 146 Wig Road, Hopeland. I have an alternate motion that I wish to put forward. The alternate motion that I wish to put forward reads that Council, in response to the request from the Department of Planning, Lands, Heritage, 1, provides comment to the Western Australian Planning Commission that, in respect of the proposed development for a private recreation motorsport facility at 732 Punrack Road, Keysbrook and 146 Wig Road, Hopeland, Council raises the following serious planning, environmental, social and economic concerns. A, the development is of a size and scale which will irreversibly change the current and future character and amenity for the rural area of Hopeland, eroding its productive capacity as a rural area. B, the development may have no capacity to reasonably manage its noise impacts and does not enjoy an acceptable separation distance from nearby sensitive receptors when compared to the carco.com.au raceway, formerly known as Barbagallo Raceway. C, the development will potentially impact both regional groundwater and surface water flows, which threatens the Ramsar listed Peel Harvey estuary, being the largest and most diverse estuarine complex in southwestern Australia. D, the development deserves a full suite of supporting state and federal government road and public transport infrastructure, which at this stage remains unplanned and uncommitted. Accommodating events for 3 days attendance levels of between 50 to 80,000 spectators requires commensurable infrastructure to be available to safely manage such events. 2, recommends the following conditions in the instance that the West Australian Planning Commission considers it appropriate to approve the proposed development for a private recreation motorsport facility at 732 Punrack Road, Keysbrook and 146 Wig Road, Hopeland, and lists the conditions as per the officer's recommendation. Can I please have a seconder for this alternate? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this alternate motion? Thank you, Councillor D'Agostino. In opening the debate for this item, it does need to be remembered that the Shire has been asked for comment, information or recommended conditions only. We are not a decision maker in this process whatsoever, and we have basically the same rights as any member of the public to put forward a submission to the West Australian Planning Commission. In listening to the community members that have contacted councillors over the last week and listening to the community members that have put forward and sent their submissions to councillors and made statements on this item this evening, we need to be clear as a council that we spell out what our concerns are to the West Australian Planning Commission, as they are the decision makers who will make a decision based on the information that they have at hand. It is not a nice position to sit in where something is taken out of the hands of a local government, where our residents are concerned, and a decision will be made by somebody outside of our control. Given the number of submissions that I would see our community has already submitted, I think that this amended or this alternate motion goes a long way to actually supporting what our community have put forward and the expectations of our community. Thank you. Councillor Atwell, would you like to speak or reserve?
Yes, Madam President, I agree with most of what you said, all of what you've said. We need to put some conditions on this, and I think just dismissing it outright is probably going to set us up for maybe a fall later on. So I do agree that we need to impose this with as many conditions as possible to get what's necessary.
Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Councillor D'Agostino.
Thank you, Madam President. And I'd like to commend the ratepayers on the quality of the submissions that we've heard tonight and seen over the last week. I think there have been many important issues raised, and I think you've made some very good points, so well done. Now, I understand we might not be the decision maker in this situation, but as the Director of Planning said, the state government must have regard to the Shire's planning framework. And I'm violently opposed to this, and I think we need to be very strong and to take a position. This is completely contrary to what should be going on in that area. And I don't think we should be saying, let's sit on our hands. And I don't think we should be saying it's not our position. And I don't think we should be saying we'll handle all our responsibilities. I think we've got to hear the community. The community wants the Shire to stand up and take a position, and we aren't going to lose our right to put our conditions. If this motion is lost, I propose an alternate motion. I'll be proposing an alternate motion that's saying that it shouldn't be approved and setting out the reasons, but we'll be recommending all the same conditions. So we won't, in a way, my alternate motion, if it was to be heard, would make sure we make our position to the state government clear. The Shire is not in favour of this development, but if you dictate that it goes ahead, here are the important conditions that will need to be included. So I do think we need to make clear what our position is as a Shire, and we need to understand the views of the community, and we need to oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor D'Agostino. Is there anybody else that would like to speak for the motion?
Thank you, Madam President. I believe the motion as it currently stands before us does articulate the significant concerns that we have and that our community has in relation to this proposal. But at the same time, it recognises that, at the end of the day, the decision is not ours and it will be well beyond our level of influence. I feel that endorsing a position that pits us against the applicant by categorically saying we reject it will be ultimately to our detriment in our ability to work with the applicant if the state government does decide to approve it at a future date. If the application is approved, I think there are avenues for us to work with them to pursue a planning approach, a regimen that will significantly lessen the impacts on the surrounding community. And I also acknowledge the excellent submissions that have been prepared by members of our community and submitted to the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage. These submissions go above and beyond the quality that I've ever seen before. They are absolutely outstanding, but I have to have some faith that they will be taken on board by the determining authority and given the due consideration that they deserve. I'm happy to recommend the motion as it stands.
Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody else that would like to speak against the motion?
Madam President, I'd like to speak against.
Thank you, Councillor Strotton.
Madam President, so having both the amended motions from yourself and Councillor D'Agostino in front of me, I was reading them without really paying attention to who drafted each one, and I was quite impressed by what I later realised was Councillor D'Agostino's. I thought it was very explicit in what he wanted to see done, which was a little less general than the one that's being proposed. And I thought that it being more explicit certainly would give any higher authority something explicit to look at and not be confused, potentially confused, or potentially give them some wriggle room. And so I really thought the explicit version that Councillor D'Agostino has put forward would be clearer and in the residents' better interest. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Madam President, could I just note that as much as I would claim I have outstanding drafting skills, that was drafted by the Director of Development Services. So I don't want to take any credit for that excellent wording. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Straughtons and councillor D'Agostino. Is there anybody else that would like to speak for the motion? In closing for this item, I will be very short. And I do understand the stance that councillor Straughtons has taken. My concern is that this application is still before the EPA, who will make a determination on the noise. We do not have the expertise to say what has been included in the alternate motion that councillor D'Agostino had drafted. We need to be extremely careful about what claims we make that we cannot substantiate. And given that part of this development application still sits with another government body who are going through a process, it is an absolute minefield for our community to be able to put forward the submissions that they have, and for council to try and put forward a position when we do not have the information to put a position forward on. I think what we have before us is very loud and clear of the concerns that we have, and echoes the concerns of what our community members have put before us and what they have put before the state government, who are the decision makers in this process. Given that, I am quite happy to take this item to the vote. All those in favour of the alternate motion we have before us? All those against? Motion is carried 4-3.
I might ask for the votes to be recorded on that one, Madam President, please.
Minute Secretary, can we please have the votes recorded?
And Madam President, while that occurs, we will need a reason for the difference from the Office of Recommendation for the minutes, please.
For the West Australian Planning Commission to have a clear understanding of the concerns held by the Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale Council in the matter of the proposed private recreation motorsport facility 732 Punrack Road, Keysbrook, and 146 Wig Road, Hopeland. Item 10.1.7, response to notice of motion, urban and rural forest strategy implementation. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Councillor D'Agostino, are you happy to second? Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.8, final endorsement of Jaredale Oval Recreation Space and Trail Head Master Plan. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Director, I have a question. Has the Jarrahdale landscape strategy been taken into consideration with the Jaredale Oval Recreation Space and Trailhead Master Plan?
Thank you for the question, Madam President. Certainly as part of the proponent who prepared the master plan, one of their first tasks was to do a full, literature review of the voluminous amount of documents that have predated the step that we're at the moment. So the landscape strategy is one of those documents. The master plan will need to sort of evolve if it is adopted by council into more specific projects, which will then become the specific opportunity to really target in to ensure that everything works and syncs together, particularly the landscape strategy that you've mentioned.
Thank you. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.9, approval of the draft Serpentine Jarrahdale payment in lieu of parking plan. Can I please have a mover of this motion? Thank you, Councillor Byers. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.10, final endorsement of the Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale Local Heritage Survey. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Byers. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.11, revision of Council Policy 2.1.11, street lighting. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Byers. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Straughtons. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.12, proposed Metropolitan Region Scheme Amendment, Lot 30, Soldiers Road, Carter. Request for preliminary comment. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.13, proposed amendments to Local Planning Policy 3.5, Byford Town Centre Public Realm Guidelines, and Local Planning Policy 3.8, Byford Town Centre Built Form Guidelines. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Byers. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.14, request for council agreements to treatment of Clara Street level crossing as part of future extension of passenger rail services south of Byford. Can I please have a
Madam
move?
President, could I propose an alternative motion, please?
Yes, Councillor Duggan.
So the alternate motion is one that has been shared just before the meeting, and it is looking at option 1, however, with a addition in point 3, where in the long term, Byford will grow into one of the most important city centres in the southeast corridor of Perth, At this point in time, there will be the need to create increased east-west community and business connectivity across the rail corridor. This includes at Evans Way, which does not connect in the at-grade option, and also point 4, which is accordingly in the long-term station precinct for Byford will warrant elevation, and therefore connectivity at Clara Street West plus additional connectivity at Evans Way should be able to occur. Other points are as stated in officer's recommendation. Thanks.
Thank you, councillor Duggan. Can I please have a seconder for the alternate motion before us? Thank you, councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously.
And councillor Duggan, are you happy with that reasons for the difference as per you've written there? To ensure increased connectivity, pedestrian and vehicle from the east to the west of Byford Township is possible in the future?
Happy, thanks very much.
Item 10.1.15, dog exercise area, lot 8053, Trommerline Boulevard, Byford. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Strange. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Bias. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.2, infrastructure services reports. 10.2.1 is the minutes of the Rivers Regional Council meeting held on the 18th of August 2022. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Bias. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to these minutes? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.2.2, maintenance of rural road verges. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Bias, councillor Atwell, you happy to second? Thank you. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.2.3, petition footpath on Adonis Street and Richardson Street, Mundijong. Can I please have a mover? Thank you, councillor Atwell. Can I please have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.2.4, engineering services, council policy review, restricted access vehicle operations within the Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale, subdivision road upgrade and subdivision drainage headworks. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Duggan. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Bias. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. 10.3, corporate services reports. 10.3.1, confirmation of payment of creditors, August 2022. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Strange. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.3.2, monthly financial report, July 2022. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Bias. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.3.3, corporate business plan performance report, April to June 2022 and 2021-2022 end of year. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Duggan. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, councillor D'Agostino. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.3.4, Strategic Risks Register Quarterly Review Report, August 2022. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Duggan. Can I please have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, councillor D'Agostino. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.3.5, OneCom project deferral of phase 3.
Madam President, I'm proposing an alternate motion as earlier distributed with the change or addition of one further word after the word policy to have the word direction. After policy, just add direction. Yep.
In point 3, councillor
In
Straw.
point 3, that's correct, Madam President.
So to clarify from the councillor, we're removing the word policy entirely?
No, keeping policy, just adding direction. So we get a policy direction.
Understood.
Councillor Strawton, I'm happy to second with some added wording.
Please contribute, Madam President.
I would like to see the contract renewals, and I'll actually ask the Director of Corporate Services for a bit of guidance on the wording, but to be able to send the contract negotiations and renewals to the ARG committee as well as what you've proposed.
Perhaps if we just, if we were to insert the words management software contract renegotiation. So on the first line, refer the OneCom management software contract renegotiation. Yeah. The audit risk and governance to draft a policy direction to bring back to council.
Councillor Strauss, you happy with that additional wording?
I'm fine. Was that including all the points you raised, Madam President? It does. Then yes, I'm happy with that. No problem.
Clarification, please, councillor Strawtons. If we're looking for a draft policy direction, what would that look like?
In my mind's eye, I have the Audit Risk and Governance Committee coming back with benchmark information about what they discover, find out what happens in other organisations, what is an acceptable percentage on resource management software that an organisation would spend, so that we have some guidelines. My concern here is also I would like them to consider how this Shire is a tier 2 Shire, and that means it limits the salaries that we can pay to staff. And when we are training staff on a leading edge software such as OneCom, I'm very concerned that there's a great risk that we are training staff that move on to tier 1 councils to gain a high income after using the skills, improving their recruiting skills that they've gained from being in our Shire. So I just feel that we need to inform OneCom that we need a better deal because of those factors.
Thank you, councillor Straughtons. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously.
And Councillor Stratton, are you happy with the wording that you provided earlier? Have you given some updated wording for the reasons for the difference?
I have since submitted some additional wording, which even that needs a bit of amendment. So the reasoning I've written down is SJ Shire being tier 2 cannot compete by being leading edge training staff who can be recruited to grow OneCom expansion by departing to tier 1 councils for higher salaries.
Suggest you use the word band rather than tier, just bands are more technical.
If that's a better word, absolutely.
The band,
Yep.
if we change the band, the words tier to band, that would be the appropriate language.
Thank you. And if you change the word sales there to expansion. Expansion, yeah. Be a little bit more politically correct. And one councillor, so yep, that's, I'm happy with that, thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Item 10.4, community and organisational development reports. 10.4.1, RFT 11/2021, contract for Serpentine Jarrahdale Community Recreation Centre Management Services. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Byers. Can I please have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Thank you, councillor D'Agostino. Councillor Byers, would you like to open debate, please?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to keep my remarks very, very brief, noting that we do have one, I believe it's one confidential attachment. We've got confidential elements to this item. So I'm simply going to state that I'm very comfortable with what the office has put forward, what has been outlined, and I am more than happy to support the office's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Byers. Councillor Atwell, would you like to speak or reserve?
I'll reserve, thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councillor D'Agostino, would you like to speak against, please remembering that there is a confidential component to this report?
Thank you, Madam President, and I won't, I suppose, elucidate in detail my concerns, but I just have a number of concerns in relation to the contracts. I'm not prepared to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor D'Agostino. Is there anybody else that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Byers, would you like to close, please?
I have nothing further to add, Madam President.
Thank you. All those in favour of the motion before us? All those against? Motion is carried 6-1. Item 10.4.2, 2021-2022 Byford Town Team Outcomes. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Byers. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.4.3, Strategic Community Plan Major Review.
Madam President, I've got an alternate resolution I'd like to propose.
Councillor D'Agostino.
And apologies, and I can't find my piece of paper. There's just, oh, there it is. Thank you. It's just I'd say rather than minor change to paragraph 3 to delete the existing paragraph and to say that we note the officer's comments in the report in relation to SJ 2015. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor D'Agostino. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, councillor Bias. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously.
Councillor D'Agostino, are you happy with that alternative reason for the difference that you included there previously, or will you propose alternative reasons?
Yes, so, yep, perfect, thank you.
Item 10.5, Executive Services Reports. 10.5.1, Financial Assistance Agreement, Byford Nature Splash Park. Will advise that this item has been withdrawn from this meeting's agenda and will be presented to council at a later OCM. Item 10.5.2, Minister for Local Government's Local Government Reforms, Full Reform Proposals.
Madam President, the Manager of Governance has declared an impartiality interest in this item. It's referred to in the disclosures of interest in the report heading, but it wasn't on your list you read out earlier on, so I just wanted to note that at this point in time, if that's okay. It's only impartiality interest. Yes, probably.
Dr. Kenneth Parker has declared an impartiality interest in item 10.5.2. The nature of the interest is as Manager of Governance and Strategy, worked on the Local Government Act reforms in their previous role, and is a former colleague of others working on the review. Manager of Governance and Strategy has declared an impartiality interest in this matter as the officer worked on Local Government Act reforms in their previous role and is a former colleague of officers working on the review within the department. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Bias. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.5.3, Peel Regional Leaders Forum Minutes. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor D'Agostino. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.5.4, Organisational Structure Review. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Bias. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.6 is confidential reports. Item 10.6.1, Confidential Criminal Procedure Act 2004, Lot 717252 Boomerang Road, Albury. Can I please have a mover to close the public gallery? Thank you, councillor Strange. Councillor Duggan, you happy to second? All those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Can we please have the public gallery closed while